Hey Gab, Facebook, YouTube, it is Kevin Newsom. I'm back again, weighing in on the situation with the NFL. Today is October the 1st, 2017. I am updating the NFL situation that I began discussing last weekend. We've seen a lot transpire in a week. We've seen a heck of a lot go down in a week. The league office has shifted their position once again, with the NFL saying that they now recommend that all the players stand for the anthem, but that it's actually an individual team decision. So they're pushing off the responsibility of this controversy to each of the 32 teams. Now, several of the teams have tried to get back on the fence on this issue and are saying that we will kneel in a show of unity for the struggle before the anthem, and then as soon as the anthem begins, we'll put our hand over our heart and stand at attention. I don't know if anyone is actually believing this is going to make anyone happy. I think in reality, what's going to happen is both sides of this debate are just going to get even more angry about the issue, because essentially the NFL is hopped back on the fence and are playing both sides once again, saying, look, we support everybody. The struggle is real. God bless America. Everyone's welcome. Come on back to us and spend your money. In addition to this ridiculous fence-sitting posture, the NFL's also playing an out-of-sight, out-of-mind game. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, the first and biggest example of this out-of-sight, out-of-mind game is Fox, the broadcasting company. Now, Fox broadcasts NFC football games. So, essentially, about half of the football games broadcast for the NFL are on the Fox network. Fox came out this weekend and stated that they were going to stop showing and stop broadcasting the national anthem, period. So when you watch an NFC football game or a game on Fox, you simply will not see the national anthem at all. Out of sight, out of mind. They're hoping that by just cutting out that portion of the game, that you'll forget about what's going on and you'll come back to the league and start spending your money once again. To me, I think it's a ridiculous joke that they're using this kind of tactic, and I think it's not going to fool anybody at all. And a bigger story than even Donald Trump going off at a campaign rally and starting this whole matter off in controversy is Raidergate. A story broke at the beginning of this weekend that alleges that the Oakland Raiders team through last week's game against the Redskins. They essentially rigged the game in retaliation for a player standing for the national anthem. A radio show alleges that an inside source told them that the entire Raiders offensive line was upset at Raiders quarterback Derek Carr for standing during the national anthem. Word has it, rumor has it, that the offensive line stated, if he's standing alone for the anthem, then he's going to stand alone during the game as well. And the story goes, they allowed their quarterback to be sacked numerous times. The receivers willfully and purposely dropped balls. The center was hiking the ball at the quarterback's knees and at his feet repeatedly in retribution for him standing for the national anthem. Now, if this is true, and it's a big if it is true, however, the NFL has a much larger problem on their hands than a possible fan boycott. Now we're moving into the territory of evidence that the game itself is rigged. This would be devastating to the league. This would be way worse than fans being upset and starting not to show up to games. This would be thousands of times worse than fans stopping watching the games on TV. This would even be worse than fans boycotting sponsors. When you get into the territory of people making claims that the game itself is rigged, that's when things go incredibly bad, incredibly fast. The league's response to this allegation, to this supposed inside source talking about Raidergate, has been an almost deafening silence. Again, they're using out of sight, out of mind tactics to try and keep what they have intact. Does this work long term? I don't know. I'm skeptical, however. In the old days when people did not have access to the internet, this strategy, this tactic may have worked. But right now, when people have access to the net and they can find out more or less what's going on anywhere around the world, I'm not so certain this is going to pan out. So I decided, after looking at all this information, to go a little bit deeper and see what else the NFL is trying to hide, or at least keep from our view. And since a fan sent in a picture of Atlanta's stadium, their brand new dome, having a lot of empty seats today, I decided to dig into the finances of the NFL in Atlanta. I saw in '92, when the Georgia Dome was constructed, which was a beautiful stadium, by the way, that the city paid somewhere around $214 million to have the stadium constructed. 25 years later, they paid another $200 million to have this brand new Mercedes-Benz dome built right next to the Georgia Dome. And I thought to myself, how wasteful are we as a society when NFL teams require brand new state-of-the-art stadiums every 25 years? And the cost for these stadiums are just going up. Atlanta bragged that they got a cheap deal on this stadium. In other words, just paying $200 million every 25 years to a private business is a cheap deal for Atlanta. And it's truly tragic to look at this and see this from a somewhat neutral perspective, because you look at Atlanta's infrastructure, you look at the Grady Hospital in Atlanta, which is a huge public hospital which serves poor people, elderly people, people without insurance. It's on the verge of shutting down because it's so poorly funded. This hospital serves the entire region for people who cannot afford care anywhere else, or who have emergencies, or don't have insurance, or who are on Medicaid. They are, and you guessed it, $200 million in the hole. Now think about that for a second. The city of Atlanta has essentially decided to risk an entire region's medical care to build a new football stadium right next to a stadium that's only 25 years old. They're replacing a stadium that is 25 years old and sacrificing the health of the citizens of an entire region. It's totally insane. Sorry, Grandma, no care for you. The Falcons have to have a new stadium. And you know what? If you have a stroke or a heart attack in the area, I don't know what to say anymore. If the hospital closes, maybe you can go to a Falcons game. Maybe they'll treat you there. Maybe if you wear a Falcons jersey, someone will actually care about you enough to give you some medical care in an emergency. And this is another out of sight, out of mind trick from the NFL. They don't publicize, of course, how much taxpayers have to foot the bill for their product. $200, $300, $400, $500 million a pop for these stadiums, now coming every 25 years, is outrageous. Think of how little we pay our teachers. Think of the poor state of our infrastructure. Think of how bad the roads are in some of these cities. Think of how poor the police pension and the fire pension is in some of these places. These expenditures are outrageous, and no one can truly justify them. No matter how many charity events an NFL team has, it's not going to make up for how much money they're siphoning out of the community. It's truly a travesty. You know, I was looking at St. Louis. They had lost the Rams recently to Los Angeles. And the Missouri governor, before the Rams left and went back to LA, was actually in the process of spending almost $500 million for a new stadium for the Rams. The stadium they were playing in was less than 25 years old. So think about that. If market cost these days has ballooned up to $500 million, can your city, can your state afford to pay that much every 20, 25 years to keep these teams around? Do the teams bring even close to that much revenue into the city to justify that cost? St. Louis is still paying over $140 million of debt for the stadium that the Rams left. So even though the Rams have left town, St. Louis is still paying the bill, and they will for the next 4 or 5 years. So another out of sight, out of mind trick from the NFL, not informing people of just how much they'll be paying to build these palaces, these brand new stadiums that the teams will only be satisfied with for 20 or 25 years. In short, the league is in big trouble. They're in big trouble. And this goes well beyond if players stand or kneel or sit on their butts for the national anthem. Now we have serious allegations about players throwing games. Now we have a track record of the NFL siphoning off hundreds of millions of dollars from states and cities, monies that could be spent on hospitals and infrastructure and taking care of the people, that's being spent instead on building these palaces for billionaires. My friends, the NFL is in serious trouble. They're playing out of sight, out of mind games. They are trying to hide the fact that they are stealing money from you and from me as taxpayers. And I don't see a future that's good for this league. I don't see an outcome that's positive. I appreciate the comments and all the response from the previous video. It really does warm my heart. Whatever you have to say, as long as it's not threatening to anybody, I'm going to let you say it. So you have free speech on my channel. If you want to call people names, call them names. If you like the video, let me know. If you don't like it, tell me about it. If you want to comment, I'm going to let your comment on the page. So thank you for taking the time to listen to my observations. God bless you wherever and whenever you're at. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.